The Philadelphia Phillies are on a win streak. I know. Who would have thought that the way the early part of the season, it's still the early part of the season, but the first couple of games went, it felt like the sky was falling on this team, as all Philadelphia sports fans love to overreact, including myself, when things aren't going wrong. But we got to remember it is a long 162 game season. It is not a 17 game NFL season where every game matters. Every game, yes, does matter, but one loss here and there, a couple losses in a row here and there aren't going to kill you. You're going to lose baseball games. It's going to happen. You're going to win a lot of baseball games when you're a good team like this. And the Phillies are on a 2-game win streak right now with that 6-5 walk-off series finale yesterday afternoon on Wednesday to wrap up that 3-game home series against the Washington Nationals. Great ending. Not so great of a start. Not so great of a, really, most of the game. I'll get into that later on in this video. But they did end up winning that series 2-1, so they got their first series win of the 2026 Major League Baseball season, and they finished 500 on this first homestand. Obviously, they were 1-2 against the Rangers to open up the first series, and then got the 2-1 series win here against the Nationals. So with a 500, a 3-3 homestand, not horrible. Could have been worse, could have been better, but you can't really complain heading out west now to go play the Colorado Rockies. They are off here today as they were traveling and are traveling to Colorado to begin this 3-game series against the Rockies. First game tomorrow on Friday, 4:10 p.m. Eastern Time, first pitch, Phillies versus the Rockies, and then goes on for the weekend as well. It's the start of a 6-game road trip. First will be obviously the Rockies for their 3 games, and then 3 games against the San Francisco Giants at Oracle Park there in the Bay Area before they return home again for another homestand. Welcome into Phillies Daily, everybody. I'm your host, Mike Kennelly. Make sure you guys subscribe for more Phillies content right here on Phillies Daily. But before we get into that game yesterday afternoon, got a couple housekeeping things to talk about here. First, I saw an article yesterday before the game started from ESPN. It was their starting pitcher tier rankings, pretty much just their top starting pitchers in Major League Baseball right now for 2026. Now it was tier rankings. They were still ranked 1 through 11, and then a couple pretty much honorable mentions. But the Phillies did have some guys on that list, including not in the top tier, but the tier right below the top tier were just 2 pitchers and none other than the 2 reigning Cy Youngs, Tarik Skubal of the Detroit Tigers and Paul Skeens, the young pitching phenom there with the Pittsburgh Pirates. So that's the top tier, but the tier right below was, quote, the challengers to the top tier. Christopher Sanchez, our Phillies ace, he was among a group of 3 starting pitchers in that group there as the challengers to the top tier of Tarik Skubal and Paul Skeens. And Christopher Sanchez ranked number 5 overall in these rankings by ESPN for top starting pitchers in Major League Baseball. Now, the next tier was some question marks, but in the ace club. And coming in for that category by the Philadelphia Phillies, or on the Philadelphia Phillies, were Zach Wheeler, who we all know is returning from injury. I'll get to that in just a moment actually here as well. He was ranked number 10 overall on this list. And then there was also Jesus Luzardo, was right behind Zach Wheeler at number 11 on this list. It was only 1 through 11 actually ranked, and then they threw a couple, again, kind of honorable mentions or names to watch category there at the end, but they weren't ranked. So Phillies had Christopher Sanchez at number 5, Zach Wheeler at number 10, and Jesus Luzardo at number 11 in these top starting pitching rankings / tier rankings by ESPN. And that just shows how dominant, especially when Zach Wheeler's back, and how great this starting rotation can be and should be, hopefully will be, and especially if Andrew Painter keeps on pitching for the most part like he did in his MLB debut the other night against the Nationals in that 3-2 victory. It's going to be exciting. Hopefully Aaron Nola has a good season, bounce back season as well, and then we'll go from there. But they definitely have at least 2 Cy Young candidates in my mind, and probably 3 between Christopher Sanchez, Zach Wheeler when he's healthy, if he has enough starts, and he's probably not going to, but who knows? And hopefully Jesus Luzardo, yes, he didn't have his best start of the season in his first start of the year, but a lot of people, including myself, think Jesus Luzardo is going to kind of have that breakout year here in 2026 and turn into that legitimate, really perennial Cy Young contender year in and year out. And the Phillies obviously believe that as well, because they rewarded him this offseason right before the season started with that 5-year contract extension. So speaking of Zach Wheeler, we do have some injury updates as well. Rob Thompson provided yesterday before the Phillies early afternoon baseball game against the Nationals to wrap up that 3-game series, including obviously Zach Wheeler he is making his second rehab start with the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs in AAA. Sorry, I just saw something out of the corner of my eye. But that is going to be on Friday. It's scheduled for against the Durham Bulls. The Phillies are hoping that Zach Wheeler can get through 4 innings in that start. They have him in a pitch count of about in the 50 to 55 pitches range. So that's going to be some solid work for Zach Wheeler. Hopefully he has a pretty good outing and hopefully he feels pretty good. Hopefully there's no setbacks. Let's knock on wood on that because that's the last thing we need is Zach Wheeler having a setback. He is expected to make another start as well up in Allentown when the Iron Pigs return home. That is not a firm date yet when that day will be. But obviously, likely sometime next week. He usually pitch every 5 days in baseball. So hopefully after that, that's going to be enough for Zach Wheeler to return. They did ask about a potential fourth minor league start a part of this rehab. Rob Thompson did not commit either side, saying, yes, there's going to be a fourth. No, there's not going to be a fourth. He did say, quote, we'll just read it, pretty much saying we'll see how it goes. We'll see how he feels. If Zach Wheeler's feeling good after this Friday start and start next week, then we could see him definitely back here sooner rather than later up at the big leagues in the Phillies starting rotation. He is still on track for a return by the end of this month in April, if not a little bit sooner. But that is the realistic expectation that Zach Wheeler is back in the Phillies major league rotation by the end of this month here in April. Also, on the injury front, pitching-wise, in the bullpen, Orion Kirkring, he's also making rehab appearances down in the minor leagues. He's still on his rehab assignment. I believe he had 1 appearance already. I believe he was scheduled. I didn't check because I'm making this on Wednesday right now. So it's weird that I'm talking about it, but this video is for Thursday. That's why it's weird. But we're making this. Orion Kirkring, I believe he was scheduled to make an appearance last night as well in the minors. So I'm not sure how many more appearances he's going to have until he's back up with the big league club. But seems like he's on track and having a good rehab so far as well to probably join the Phillies bullpen sooner rather than later. And then on the prospect side, we all know one of the Phillies' top prospects right now with Andrew Painter and Justin Crawford up at the big league club. Adam Miller's a top prospect. He already was their top prospect, actually, in the new list heading into this season anyway. But we all know he was dealing with some back issues that went back to last season at the end of the year. He sat out some offseason stuff. I think he sat out of the Arizona Fall League. Maybe if I'm not mistaken because of that. Obviously missed the majority of spring training and Phillies camp as well. We didn't really get to see him play at all, which was a little bit unfortunate. But the Phillies don't want to rush him back. They want him to feel good. He's a young kid. Why rush him back? Why make anything serious down the line? Let him feel good. Let him recover. And on that update, Rob Thompson said there's still really no update on Adam Miller's back issue other than his activity has ramped up, but he's still not swinging the baseball bat yet, so he's probably still got a little bit ways to go. But hopefully Adam Miller feels better pretty soon, recovers quickly and healthily, and then he's back down there in the minors in AAA doing some good things, and maybe we'll see him later on at the big league club here later in the 2026 season if need be. Now into yesterday's game. It wasn't the best start, as I said. If you didn't catch the game, it was a lot of the same as what the Phillies have been playing as of late to start their season. Offense was quiet. Pitching wasn't great. Christopher Sanchez, he was on the mound. It wasn't his best day. I'll get to that in just a moment. But the Phillies did have an early 1-0 lead in the first inning, which was good to see because we haven't seen much of that so far this year. Kyle Schwarber, he had an RBI double. Bad play by the center fielder. He tried to dive to catch it. Shouldn't have happened. But the right fielder, credit to him, he had a great backup there. Could have been a lot worse. Kyle Schwarber tried to push it to a triple. He was thrown out of third base. So still an RBI double for Kyle Schwarber, but out at third. A run did score, so the Phillies had the early 1-0 lead. The Nationals, though, they tied it up the very next inning in the second, 1-1. It was a bases loaded strikeout. So they got the strikeout, but to make it 2 outs. But then the ball kind of got lost behind JT Realmuto. He didn't know where it was. It was kind of like around the umpire a little bit. Didn't go too far. Nobody was really advancing. You can't advance to first base on that as like a drop third strike anyway. When the bases are loaded, the base is occupied at first. But there was a runner who was on first base, obviously already 4 bases loaded. He kind of started going towards second, I guess, assuming the runners ahead of him were going to advance, 1 runner home, the other runner to third. So JT Realmuto found the ball, picked it up, threw it to first to Harper. The runner did dive back into the bag. Bryce Harper thought he got him out because the runner did kind of have his hand off. The ump called him safe. They were arguing, saying that Harper kind of pushed his hand off, which was the reason why that was happening. The runner on third base originally from the bases loaded, came home to score, tied it up 1-1. A little bit unfortunate. It kind of gave you flashbacks of really what was been happening throughout the first couple of games of the season, especially in that 13-2 blowout loss to the Nationals in the first game of that series. A lot of mistakes, a lot of just frustrating stuff. Now, again, that's what happened. Christopher Sanchez, I want to get into him. His numbers overall, not horrible, but he definitely did not have his best stuff. He definitely did not have what he had in his opening day start, where he was just dominant and electric. Christopher Sanchez, he did make it into the 6th inning. However, he was replaced in that 6th inning after recording the first out via a strikeout. They went to the bullpen to Jonathan Bolin. So his final line, Christopher Sanchez, was 5 1/3 innings, 4 hits, not bad, but he did have 4 walks, a little bit uncharacteristic there. 4 walks is a lot in any baseball game, no matter how many innings you're pitching. 4 walks, just not very unlike Christopher Sanchez. Again, he was having those command issues. He had just the 1 earned run, and he had 7 strikeouts, which was pretty good in 5 1/3 innings, to go after his 10 strikeouts he had in his opening day. Not really known to be a strikeout pitcher. He gets a lot of contact and ground ball outs and all that kind of stuff, but so far through his first 2 starts, he's got 17 strikeouts. So maybe Christopher Sanchez, he's going to turn into maybe a dominant strikeout pitcher. I mean, he obviously does strike people out, but again, not really known for his strikeouts like some other guys around the league. But yesterday, just not his day overall. Still not horrible numbers, as I said, but just a lot of command issues and a lot of heavy lifting for Christopher Sanchez. Jonathan Bolin, who replaced him, he allowed 2 singles, including a go-ahead RBI single in relief of Christopher Sanchez to make that a 2-1 Nationals lead after the Nationals had tied it earlier on. Brad Keller, the newcomer in the bullpen who they signed to a 2-year deal this offseason, he allowed a 3-run home run in the 7th inning. Nationals took a 5-1 lead there late in the game in the 7th. Kind of felt like that was the dagger. I mean, I thought it was over pretty much there. I was like, there's probably no... Again, the offense just wasn't doing much. The bullpen obviously let up a few runs. It just felt like it was going to be another day, another dollar for the Phillies. Same different day, same result. In fact, I was already pretty much wrapping this up as a loss as I was sitting there watching. I was getting this video ready, prepping my notes, all that kind of stuff. And I was getting ready to talk about pretty much what I just said. Different day, same story with this Phillies offense, with this Phillies team, how it's been so far on the early parts of the season. But boy, did they prove me wrong. Even after what I'm going to say right now, I still thought the game was probably over. If you remember, JT Realmuto, he hit a solo home run in that 7th inning after the Nationals took a 5-1 lead with their 3-run home run. In the top half of the inning, JT Realmuto, first home run of the season, he got that to a 5-2 Nationals lead with that solo home run. Still didn't feel great about it because, again, overall the offense just wasn't clicking, didn't have a rhythm. Bryce Harper, he came up, obviously has been struggling to start this season so far, but he hit a solo home run as well the very next inning. In the 8th inning, the Nationals still had a 5-3 lead because, again, these were both solo home runs. But hopefully for both Bryce Harper and JT Realmuto, this is a step in the right direction. They both really need to get going. They've both been kind of struggling, and they're both pretty big pieces to this Phillies lineup day in and day out. They need these guys going good. They need these guys being right, and they need these guys producing in the lineup. So hopefully that's a sign of good things to come for both of those Phillies veterans. Again, even after those 2 solo home runs, it was still a 5-3 Nationals lead heading into the 9th inning, and I still thought this game was over. I was still getting ready to talk the Phillies offense as a whole. Again, not doing too much here, especially against, again, a not so very good Washington Nationals pitching staff. But again, they did prove me wrong here. They're down 5-3 in the bottom of the 9th inning. Game was getting close to being over. They did have bases. They worked bases loaded, the Phillies, but there were 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th inning. That's when who else other than Edmundo Sosa, everybody's favorite utility man. He came through in the clutch with a game-tying 2 RBI single to tie it up 5-5. Ultimately, the Phillies did not score again in the 9th inning, so it got sent to extra innings, but they completed the comeback there. Forced extra innings. It wasn't looking good for them heading into the 7th inning and even the 9th inning, but they got the job done. They didn't give up, which is always good to see. I talked about that even in that 6-5, I think it was 6-5, extra inning loss in their second game of the season against the Rangers. They ultimately lost in extra innings, but they did come back there late in the game as well. You'd like to see them score more runs early on and not wait till the very end of the game to score and to make some things happen on the bases. But I guess a win's a win, and it all worked out for the Phillies yesterday over the Nationals. In the 10th inning, Joan Duran came in a tied ball game to try to shut down the Nationals and give the Phillies a chance to win it in the bottom of the 10th. And they did just that. Joan Duran, obviously there's a ghost runner on second base with no outs to start extra innings in Major League Baseball. Joan Duran, the Phillies closer, got a strikeout, so there's one out guy on second. And then Edmundo Sosa, there was a line drive hit to him. You were like, oh boy, this might get over his head. The run might score. Nope. Edmundo Sosa, who just tied the game up in the 9th inning with that 2 RBI single, made a great defensive leaping grab. And then the runner, he was heading towards third base, thinking that was going to get over his head. He had his eyes on scoring the go-ahead run. Edmundo Sosa said nope, jumped up, caught it, doubled him up at second base, ended the 10th inning without that ghost runner scoring, still tied 5-5. It was great stuff. Edmundo Sosa, credit to him. And then JT Realmuto, who hit a home run a little bit earlier, he hit a single in the bottom of the 10th inning. So Brandon Marsh was the ghost runner at second base. So the Phillies already had first and third with no outs. Anything can pretty much score that game-winning run from third base with less than 2 outs, especially with no outs. You would think a team like the Phillies can get that job done. They did just that. Justin Crawford, the young kid, the Phillies outfielder, having a terrific start to his MLB career. He came through in the clutch for his team and in front of the home fans. Everybody's going to be loving Justin Crawford now moving forward. He hit the game-winning walk-off RBI single, scoring Brandon Marsh from third. His first career RBI with that, his first career walk-off. He also capped off a 3-5 day at the plate, 3 hits yesterday afternoon in that 6-5 victory over the Nationals, including his first career double. He hit one either that just bounced right in front of the left field wall or hit off the bottom of the left field wall. So a lot of firsts for Justin Crawford yesterday. He came through in the clutch for his team. Great to see. And with the 3-hit day yesterday, he is now batting .412 batting average to start his MLB career. So he's off to a great start. A lot of people had some concerns with him hitting a lot of ground balls on the ground, a lot of infield singles, not getting the ball in the air, not having power. But if you're getting these 3-hit games, if you're coming through with a lot of these singles every day, you can't hate that. He's getting on base. He's using his speed to his advantage. He's got elite speed. He can make things happen on the base paths. And I'm going to take a guy getting 2 to 3 hits a day over a guy going 1 for 5 with 4 strikeouts and maybe a double or a home run or whatever it may be. I'd rather the guy that's going to get on base multiple times in a game, use his speed, help his team in many ways, and have a high batting average. Again, .412, very small sample size, but .412 batting average for Justin Crawford. Can't ask for much better of a start to your Major League career. Hats off to Justin Crawford. I've been enjoying watching him play, and I bet you guys are too, especially after that performance yesterday afternoon. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Phillies Daily. I'm your host, Mike Kennelly. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe for more Phillies content right here on Phillies Daily. Sorry it ran a little bit longer here today, but I had to get through that whole game. It was an exciting one at the end. Again, off day today here on Thursday. They're traveling out to Colorado. That first game will be tomorrow, late afternoon, early evening, 4:10, I think I said, first pitch against the Colorado Rockies on Friday. They have that 6-game road trip starting up, so 3 games with the Rockies and 3 games in San Francisco. Enjoy some more Phillies baseball. Enjoy the off day. And as always, go Phils.